Hey, and welcome to Fit Me Turo Fitness Podcast, a podcast for people who want to get no BS information about fitness and know that fitness is about so much more than losing scale weight. It's about feeling confident in your skin and empowered in your life. I'm your host, Turo Virta, personal trainer, strength and nutrition coach, and most of all, a husband of my beautiful wife, Miriam. Each week, my guests and me will give you some no BS fitness tips and motivate you to take action in your own personal fitness journey as we talk about nutrition, exercise, mindset, personal development, and executing in life with enjoyable but still effective strategies. If your goal is to look better, feel and be strong and experience transformation from inside out, you, my friend, are in the right place. Thank you for jumping in, and now let's jump into today's episode. Awesome. Welcome to Fit Me Turo Fitness Podcast. Today's guest, I have Tom Swales. It's a part 2. And in this episode, I personally have been waiting for this for a long time. So Tom was in last year, I believe it was in October, November. So
Yep.
It's 7-8 months ago, my guest. And we had an amazing conversation about Tom's own personal journey, what he is doing, and if you haven't checked out, if these topics like this is more kind of for athletes and recovery and about his SAMscan nervous system. So, so first of all, welcome to my show, Tom.
Thanks for having me again, Turo.
So before we get into topics, just those who didn't listen episode 1, could you shortly introduce yourself, who you are, what you are doing, and then let's get into topics.
Yep. So I'm a physiotherapist, strength coach, athletic trainer up here in Canada. We own a clinic, 5,000 square foot rehabilitation sports performance clinic with my wife, 30 staff. We've grown that over the last 13 years. I'm an educator where to solve my own problem of disorganization and increasing effectiveness in my own practice, and then elevating the standard of practice in those around me, created the advanced movement therapist certification, and then a couple other coaching tools for both, strength coaches as well as athletes to create a better self-awareness through self-assessment so that they can bulletproof their body and essentially potentially mitigate injury before they become a problem. So, when I always tell people that the research says that the greatest predictor of an injury is an old injury. I agree with that if it's the same area, but I see the greatest predictor of an injury is actually a lack of self-awareness. People not realizing that they're moving inappropriately or repetitively in certain ways, or certain body parts are not moving. So therefore, forces are transmitted across, causing overuse problems someplace else. Well, if you realize that the neck wasn't rotating and you're rotating in your lower back, the cause of your low back was the neck, because the neck's a rotation joint and the lumbar spine is not. But you figured out how to compensate, to check your shoulder, to make a cut, to turn your head. So if you're turning and moving forces into areas that are not designed to do certain movements, well, now we've got compression issues, overuse issues, and degradation of tissue. Mm-hmm. So to kind of sum it all up, I want to, one, help the clinicians and coaches organize and optimize their results, as well as improve self-awareness for our athletes so that they don't need us for all the little aches and pains that they occur.
Mm-hmm. And just a little bit about your background. Still, you work obviously with many high-level athletes, and I know you probably, I don't know if you can share some names.
Yep.
For example, I know I work with the ice hockey women's national team, but do you have some names you want to mention, or with who you have been working?
Yeah, so one of the most recent ones is Mitchell Hooper, World's Strongest Man. So I've been working with him for the last 2 years. And what's fun with working with such high-level athletes is when you find all these little imbalances in the body and the nervous system, eye tracking issues, dural tension, when you correct those problems, their potential unlocks. Their nervous system releases the brakes because he's moving such massive loads and such massive volumes. He's like, I got right groin, right low back, right knee. Well, you can't stand on the left leg. And what's causing that is anytime he looks up, his glutes shut off. We call that positional inhibition because everything's tubes and wires. So as soon as we bring his neck into a better position, as soon as we get his eyes tracking to the left a little bit better, and as soon as we get him rolling to the left to correct whatever deficiency he has on the left side, all of a sudden single leg balance clears up. And then the next day he's like, oh, I can squat 800 pounds for 4 reps, no problem, with no pain. I said, awesome. So I use that as an example because those are technically rehab exercises. But when you apply rehab exercises to someone of high performance to correct the problems or the pain issues or imbalances or whatever's happening, well, now they're performance exercises. It's no different than, well, we have the 80-year-old lady who's got balance issues, posture issues. She's afraid of falling. She's weak. Well, what do we give her? We give her deadlifts. We put her in the agility ladder. We work on balance, right? Now you could say that those are high performance exercises, but in the context of the individual, they're rehabilitative and restorative. And then the rehab exercises that we gave the elite athlete, they're actually high performance. So it doesn't matter. We can't categorize rehab and performance exercise and say that they're different things. It depends on the individual that we're working with and what they need. And the key thing is you have to assess fully as a human being. Like you have to look at all the structures, neurological, biological, anatomical. You got to look at all the systems. And if one of the systems isn't working like it's supposed to, well, the other systems drive up and then they fatigue and then performance goes down and then injury happens, right? So we have to look at what the individual athlete, what the client needs, regardless of where they are in an athletic spectrum. If they're a 1-year-old baby or they're an 80-year-old woman or the world's strongest man, you assess, you look at how we were designed, you look at the order in which we were designed, you look at what's priority, and then you move from there. And the body will show you what's not working, what's moving, and what needs to be addressed.
And we talked a little bit before we started this recording. So you told something about assessment, and if like you mentioned briefly your SAM scan briefly in a last episode. So can you go a little bit deeper and explain what it is, how it helps athletes, and how everyday people can build that self-awareness?
Yeah. So we can build self-awareness with just setting a standard or a baseline. People get fixed. So the SAM scan I created for my athletes because when they're training repeatedly, especially as they get older, they come in with, oh, well, I have 20 different corrective exercises. It's like, well, how do you know you need all those? Like, if the injury's healed and you've been doing these, then there shouldn't be any problems anymore. You shouldn't need to spend 20, 30 minutes on just, doing your rehab corrective work. So when an athlete comes into like, oh, I got this tight hip or my shoulder feels tight, rather than me spending time to assess it, because that's going to eat into our training time, I developed the tool in which they can self-assess called the Self-Awareness Movement Scan or SAM scan. And I take 3 components from our neurological assessment that are cerebellar. So our Sharpen-Romberg, a Fukuda test, and like looking at coordination. And if those 3 are clear, then we move on to the global movement scan. So we want to make sure that there's no top-down control problems. Then we look at cervical spine, can you flex, extend, rotate, global flexion, toe touch, back bend, rotation, side bend, single leg balance, squat, and then you look at the shoulders and the hips. And we're looking for what feels different and what's moving different. What feels, oh, that side doesn't move the same as this. Okay, well, we got to figure out why. Is it a rotation issue at the thoracic spine? Is it a hip rotation issue? So then once we start to figure out, well, you know what, the rib cage isn't rotating that well. That could be why you're pinching your lower back, because you're moving into your lower back. So now, okay, let's go do some foam roller rib lifts. Let's do some band openers. Let's grab a cable. Let's do some rotation rows, and then we'll check it again. Oh, cleared up. Great. Because if we left that rotation problem, deficiency in the thorax, and all the rotation was moving into the lower back, someone kettlebell swings, they jump, they do a deadlift, they squat. When they get into those wound up positions, they might start rotating into the low back in inappropriate ways. Now, all of a sudden, we added load and velocity on top of movement dysfunction. Now we caused an injury. So if we can clean up some of these little imbalances that just naturally happen, it's fine, but we're catching them before they become a bigger problem. And the athletes now have a tool so they don't have to run to the therapist or run to the coach and, hey, can you solve this problem for me? No, you can do it yourself. You have the assessment tool that takes less than 3 minutes. And then now the assessment tool guides you as to which exercises we need to clean that up, which is maybe another 3 to 5. So now you spend 8 minutes instead of 30 minutes to clear up all of these little, aches, pains, tight areas. And now we can get to training. So does it take a little more time on the front end to learn? Yes, like everything does. But once you learn it, you can move so quickly through it, and then you'll start to realize, oh, I know exactly what I need to do for this. So I did it. People aren't doing the same exercises all the time just because they were told to do that 2 years ago. And then they created this collection of exercises over the course of time. Well, this therapist told me this, and this coach told me to do this, and this person over here. So like well, how do you know? Unless you assess. You got to check in. You got to make sure. If the problem's cleaned up, why are we still doing these exercises? It might be a different issue. Yeah.
No, it makes so much sense, and it sounds so logical when you explain it. So, what is when you use this SEM scan for your athletes? What are some most common imbalances or asymmetries you see while athletes are using it?
So we often see, because athletes are loading their spine, they're twisting, there's a lot of torque coming through. And as strong as their core is, the spine can get compressed, the dura. The dura is the covering of the spinal cord. It attaches to the tailbone. All the nerves come out of it. And it's the inner covering of the inner skull. Now, this dura is supposed to slide up and down the spine. So if someone comes in, this you'll see this with young athletes, especially young boys who have growth spurts. All of a sudden, they can't touch their toes. Oh, well, you know what? Like, you went through a growth spurt and your bones outgrew your muscles and your tendons. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Muscles are very flexible. But you know what doesn't stretch very quickly? Neural tissues. Nerves don't stretch. So all of a sudden, their spine gets a little longer, and the nervous system's like, ooh, like there's some tension in here. And so I'm just going to tell these muscles all to lock up to protect, because nerves don't like to be stretched. Now, if we get that dura to start sliding and pumping up and down, and then the sciatic nerves start to slide a little bit better, and then the peripheral nerves in the arms start to slide a little bit better, well, all the tightness in the body, it goes away. Now the kid can touch their toes. Now their straight leg raise is better. They don't have tight hamstrings. Now they can sprint safely. Because if you've got all this neural winding and the nerves aren't moving around, well, guess what they're telling the muscles to do? Protect. Because the muscles do what the nervous system tells them to do. And the nerve tissues take priority from a survival perspective. Why? Because if we tear a nerve, everything that nerve supplies is gone. You tear a sciatic nerve, that whole leg is dead. You can't run away from the tigers anymore. So your nervous system's just like, well, you know what? I'd rather tear a hamstring than a nerve. So I'm going to just tear this off to put you to stop you from hurting me any further. And we can create some compensations around the torn muscle, but we can't create compensations around a torn nerve. So it's a very common thing. I just worked with an athlete, D1 football player here in Jersey, and can't touch his toes. He runs 21.8 miles an hour, but he's limited. And his dad's a professional sprint coach. He's a speed coach. And they're like, we can't figure out like what's going on here. So can't touch his toes. I was like, okay, straight leg raise is limited on the right side. But the interesting thing was, I'm looking at his body. I was like, well, what's this scar here? And his abdomen. He had a surgery when he was 1 year old. And, and as soon as I put my hand on that scar, his straight leg raise went up.
Wow.
Because my input on the scar, the nervous system's like, yeah, you need to do something there. And nobody addressed it. And when I'm feeling it, it's deep. It runs all the way deep into the fascial system. So, and he even reports, he's like, yeah, when I lift my right leg, my right abs won't fire up because he's got this horizontal scar that's been there for 21 years.
Wow.
I said, so I got the data, like, feel this, it's keloid, like it's very thick. It's not moving. I just did a simple myofascial scar mobilization, showed him how to do it, moving the planes of the fascia, unwound it, straight leg raise went up. Guess what else he could do? He could touch his toes.
Wow.
And nobody addressed the 21-year-old scar. And he's been seeing back specialists. I said, okay, cool. Now let's work on segmental, because he does not want to bend his lumbar spine. He will not let it go. He's been taught, he's like, I've had back issues, and he guards. but that doesn't make you a very fast sprinter. You got to be able to create tension, release tension. And he's just locked down. He's a young kid, so he's been compensating well. But then once we got his dura, we went after, the next thing we did was we got his legs up on the wall. We did a dural decompression exercise just with breathing, touch the toes. Great. Now let's do some segmental curl ups. Ooh, now he's getting palms to floor. Now go do a couple of glute bridges to fire up the glutes. Now he's just, he's bouncing all over the place. He's like, oh my God, I've never felt this before. But I used a systematic approach, and I looked at, I'm like, okay, what do I got to look at first? I got to look at central neurodynamics first. Yeah, you're tight everywhere, but I want to know what the nerves are doing. I got to check your myotomes. His myotomes, which are nerve conduction testing, where you test specific muscles, they were shutting off. I said, Dad, look what happens when he flexes his neck. His hip flexors shut off. Look what happens when he puts the slack on. Oh, it gets better. He's like, oh, well, his sprint coach says, like he's trying to get his head down, but he can't do it, and he automatically lifts his head. He's taking neural tension off the system because of his back. And then, so now he can touch his toes. Now he can maintain a stronger neck position when he sprints. I took the brakes off the system. That's all I did.
Wow.
Because the nervous system's protective, right? It's a brake system. When the nervous system feels safe and it feels good, what do? Everything feels lighter and you have more energy. The brakes are, your potential improves. But when there's a little bit of, this doesn't feel safe, there's tightness here, the nervous system puts the brakes on. It's a dampener of power output. Now, once I went after that linchpin, which was that old scar, his nervous system started to reorganize and it took the brakes off. And this is one session.
Yeah.
And he'd see this one back specialist expert in the world for 5 sessions. They couldn't figure it out because he's just looking at the back, right? Seeing all these other therapists. Oh, we got to stretch your hamstrings. I'm like, it's not the hamstrings. It's the neural tension, but it's also the guarding and protection of that scar.
So no, it makes so much sense. Like the way how you explain it. So thank you so much. What about then for like now, if you think like I'm as a strength coach or athletes who might be listening this, how you can implement that SAM scan without overcomplicating it?
So once you know the order of the exercises, it's very simple. Like we start in standing. It's just 3 standing tests. They take 30 seconds. It's 10 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 seconds. Then it's think top down. Okay. Because what's more important? The neck is more important than the low back. Why? Because the brain, it's closer to the brain. So anything close to the brain takes a little higher priority. Can you touch your neck down? Yes or no? Any pinch, pain, pull. Any pull here, any pinch here. So you can see my neck is a little bit limited, right? Rotate, chin to collarbone, yes or no, any pinch, pain, pull. So it's very simple. Can you do it? Yes or no? And is there any pinchiness? Is there any stretch? Okay. Or is there any pain? And those are going to tell us potentially what we need to do at that area. So if I turn my head to the left, I get a pinch on the left. So I might need to do some towel mobilizations because I have a little bit of a joint issue on that side. If I have limited rotation, but it's stretch, maybe it's weakness. Maybe I just need to do some isometrics. And all of a sudden, oh, there we go. Maybe I just need to do some isometrics on the short range and all of a sudden it frees up. Just applying an input, right? Because we don't take our necks through. Can you touch your toes? Yes or no? Now, if you can't touch your toes and you're feeling kind of tightness down both hamstrings, to me, that's usually nerve tension. It's typically not a tight hamstring. Hamstring, just if we remember that, if we think that muscles are dumb and they're only doing what the brain tells them to do, and it's often to protect, stabilize, or compensate, then we start to ask the question, why is that muscle tight? And then we start to look at more important things like neural structures. So, we do a little L-DOA, we do some nerve flossing, and all of a sudden, oh, hamstrings are loose now. Okay, cool. Global extension. And again, we just think flexion, extension, side bend, rotation. How does it feel? And is one side different than the other? That's all we're looking for. That's it. We're not measuring with a goniometer. We're not trying to complicate. We're trying to make it as simple as possible. And then we look at the hips. Do the hips rotate with a Faber's test? You got a straight leg raise. What are the shoulders doing? Okay. But we take care of when we have multiple areas, we go we treat in the exact order that we assessed. So if we have flexion issues, but the neck is tight, treat the neck first. Right. And if it cleans it up, great. And if not, then maybe we go after the lower back or the nerves. And if it's global extension, well, maybe it's the T-spine. Go after that first. If not, go after the hips. So in that athlete SAM scan course that I created, it's an algorithm. And depending on where you fall into the algorithm, where your restrictions are, it branches off to the corrective exercises. But like anything, it just takes a little bit of practice in the beginning. Because once my athletes did this proficiently, they were so quick at it. I'm not teaching therapists this. I'm not teaching coaches. I'm teaching athletes.
Yeah.
But once they get it, they're like, they're empowered. They don't need to run to the therapist and coach to fix every little problem that occurs. And, for them, they're like, well, this is a ton of value and it's saving me a ton of time. And as the coach, how much time is that going to save you to not have to, you have this. Oh, I better check that. Or, oh, you have this. Like now you have to assess 5 athletes that came in with 5 different type things when you could have screened the entire team at once and they know exactly what to do. But my point is, like anything, when you're learning something new, you're going to suck at it. It's going to be uncomfortable. But like a martial art or like any new skill, once it's built, it's easy to apply. Right? So it's designed to save time in the long run, but it takes a little time up front.
Absolutely. And of course, every athlete, every coach knows that whatever you are trying to do, when you first start something new, you will most likely suck at it. It takes some time to do it. But then, like you mentioned, like, is this something like this system to doing like with the team settings? Like you said that you could assess the whole team at the same time, or is it like a one tool?
Nope, do it the entire team at the same time, right? So I'll work with elite gymnasts in Ontario. So they'll bring me out for their kind of assessment evaluation camp, and we'll have different age groups and different levels of gymnasts coming through, and we'll get a group of them for a half an hour. I take these young girls through the entire SAM scan, and then I'm like, check. But for them, I have a little bit of higher test. For them, okay, everybody do a full back bridge, right? Because their extension is going to be extreme, and do your front splits and see which side feels tighter. And always there's one side tighter. So my girls who are left, they rotate left, they spin left. I said, where are my left spinners, my left rounder offers? Oh, over here. Let me guess. Your left hamstring or your left front split's more limited. Yeah, how did you know? Because when we rotate to the left, it's an extension. It facilitates extension. So what do I get them to do? I have them do a lot of right rolling patterns to fix the issue. And guess what that does? It unlocks their splits. It has nothing to do with their tighter hamstring. Now they got even front splits. Okay. But you can do this with a team. You just like, okay, what did you guys get? Yep, you got that. You got that. Great. You guys are going to roll this way. You guys are going to roll this way. And then you're going to check your work. But it's easy to do with the teams. And once you've gone through it a few times, they start doing it on their own. But it takes repetition over time. And you just build it slowly, right? You just, you know what, today, let's just do the cerebellar scan. Let's just check these and play with these. Who had some falling? Who had some balance issues? Nobody? Okay, great. Let's just go do our regular stuff. All right. Today we're going to let's just do the spinal stuff. Flexion, extend. Who had a tight toe touch? Okay. Let's go do some nerve flossing. Let's go do some rocking and rolling and then see if it fixes it. Like you don't have to be like, oh, I need to nail this the first time. Just take components of it and sneak it in there as the coach, because nobody wants to do something completely new, but you're like, hey, I want to try one thing today. Everybody, can you touch your toes? Oh, you can't? Okay. Check your straight leg raise. All right. What do you got? Oh, I feel tension. Okay, great. Let's do some nerve pumping. And then they start to feel the differences. And they're like, oh, wow. Okay, great. Let's go train. Today, next day, let's go just do extension. Pick one part. That's it. And then you're teasing it in there and they're seeing the changes happen with one test, one exercise. And now you've got buy-in. And then all of a sudden they're familiar with all the components. Hey, so yeah, over the last 2 weeks, you know how those pieces, let's see if we can do it all together. Make it a challenge for the team. Does everybody remember that? Oh yeah, I remember the neck. Okay, great. Take us through the neck one. Great. Take us through this. Take us through the hip.
Oh, that's such a great idea. That's how to implement it. Like it's not thinking like that you have to get a full hour of workout or 30 minutes to explain everything, just with starting with one thing at a time or 2 things at the same time. And if for those who have some issues, then starting to implement those correctional exercises and see how they feel. So when you are someone who is starting like me, I have went through all this course and I really find it so valuable. Which movements you would start, or which movement? Let's put it this way: which movements you think that athletes like ice hockey players should
Yep.
do regularly? Like if you could choose only one or two.
I'm gonna go with nerve mobility, because so the rotating, the hockey players especially, they're kind of the neck up position. So they're going to compress. They might compress here. They get tight low backs. If they get tight low backs, they've got tight groins.
Yeah.
But you start looking at that entire tube, and you just get them legs up on the wall, dural decompression, a little bit of like, I think I have one exercise in there called teacup drill, right? Okay, hey, everyone balance your phone on your hand and don't drop your phone, right?
Oh yeah, that's
that.
I by the way, sorry to interrupt you. Like this is the exercise what I have been doing with my athletes, but you use phone, I use a glass of wine here in Italy. We use
even better. So it depends on if they're wine drinkers, they definitely won't drop the wine.
No, right? But that is usually a phone is a good example. But then like with my normal, like not athletes may not get it, but normal people, like this exercise is one of my favorites. Like trying to keep your wine glass full, and then if somebody is failing, and I say that you are not a big drinker anyway, so
no. So, but what that teacup drill, there's so much going on. There's spiraling. It's nerve mobility, because you're going after ulnar nerve, median nerve, radial nerve, right? All the nerves in the upper body. I have to move and bend and twist my spine. I have to be aware, and because I'm rotating, the cerebellum is paying very much attention to what's going on, because the eyes are tracking, right? I'm moving in these these big circles across the body. So now you're taking care of all the coordination cerebellar stuff. So it's kind of pick off. I see majority of these athletes are having this issue. Pick off one or two fun exercises for them to do, because then they'll do it. And then, but always check against whatever you've measured. Always check your work to show them the changes that were made. Because if changes were made, now they got buy-in, like, oh my God, my balance is better. My back doesn't hurt anymore. I don't have that tight pec, because they just flossed and mobilized all the nerves from the neck all the way to the hand. So we don't have, it's like my advanced movement therapist course. It's a total, there's 2 levels, but it's a total of 20 hours. You're not going to go through all of it and nail it at the first time. When I work with students, when in the course, I tell whoever's taking it, look, what's the first component of every interaction? Just get really good at asking questions. That's it. Build that trust, build that connection, right? Create the safety. Get really good and think about that entire person in front of you, get to know their history and ask all the relevant questions. Because that taking care of that psychology component is going to be a big deal for a lot of people, because they're going to feel heard. They then trust you. And if they trust you, their nervous system shifts into a more safe rest and digest. And now you can make changes regardless of what you do, right? Get good with that. The next is, let's just get good at looking at posture. What's the body doing? What's the snapshot? What is it protecting? What is it avoiding? Any muscle imbalances, any atrophy, any spasms, any rotations. Then get good at that. And then then get good at the global movement scan. Check their neck, check their toe touch, back bend, right? This is what I tell my students. So you can't learn everything all at once and apply it. You just build one on top of the other. When you get comfortable with one, start on the next, and then stay there. It's like exercise. Add a little weight to the bar, add a little bit more variety. Don't go and crush yourself first time and try and squat 200 pounds. Start with 20.
Oh yeah.
But you got to build it up, because there is a big learning curve. And if you try and do too much too quickly, you're like, oh, there's too much. I'm just not going to do any of it. Right? So just one.
Yeah. And so you emphasize nervous system regulation a lot. So why it's such a critical piece in training and recovery?
The longer I've been doing this, so the primary system that runs everything is our nervous system, because it is a threat detection machine, which is why the news is so good at keeping our attention. And The reason it does that is it's putting kind of scary stuff up there because our brain is always looking for threats, right? It ignores say, oh, think the world is good? All right, I can ignore stuff. But if that looks scary, I'm like, oh, you got my attention. But the nervous system's constantly scanning the environment for threats. Our heart, when we breathe in, when we breathe out, when we breathe in, our nervous system slightly goes sympathetic. When we exhale, it goes parasympathetic. So it's constantly shifting and scanning, which is why breathing is so important, because if someone's breathing like this, they're shifted into sympathetic. But if I'm 2-second inhale, 6-second exhale, well, I'm 3 times longer in parasympathetic. So the nervous system controls everything. The brain controls everything. The brain interprets all the information, both internal and external, constantly. It is evaluating, like I said, the internal and external environments. It's perceiving pain and discomfort. It's perceiving pleasure. That's all nervous system stuff. So if we understand that the nervous system controls the body, well, now we can use the nervous system as a way to communicate with the body. So, for example, with my football player, I use anytime I place hands on body, the nervous system's gonna evaluate, does this feel safe? Yes or no. Do I like it? Yes or no? Because it's an on-off. It's a go, no-go system. And when I place my hand, so his straight leg raise was like 45 degrees. I said, okay. When I place my hand over his scar, his nervous system let that hamstring go, reorganize in a meaningful way, and his leg raise with 80 degrees. How did I get 40 plus degrees of straight leg raise? I didn't stretch his hamstring. All I did was I applied an input that the nervous saw as desirable, and it took the brakes off. So now immediately I'm like, oh, the nervous system wants me to treat this. It wants me to do something here. Now I've had times where, you look at rib flares and you're like, ooh, tight neck, and I'll do an active straight leg raise to kind of, get a baseline. And then I'll put my hand on some place and it gets worse. Nervous system saying, don't touch that, at least not yet. So it's an amazing way when you use the nervous system, you can use motor output, muscle output as a form of feedback to guide what you need to treat, to guide what you need to train. And it's going to provide you that feedback loop of effectiveness, because if you did the right movement, you applied the right modality, you treated the right area, movement gets better. Muscles turn on. Nervous system reorganizes in a good way. But if we treat the wrong thing or we move inappropriately, pain comes on, tightness comes on, and movement shuts down. So, and when I talk about the nervous system, I talk about it in a way that we can remove a lot of the guesswork out of what we're doing as clinicians and coaches. Because when we see somebody move, you're like, well, let's try these exercises. Well, how do you know what they need? I mean, you can look at, well, they're not moving here very well and this, that, and the other, or you can be a little more precise. But in order to do that, we got to spend a little more time on assessing so that we're not spending a ton of time on the back end guessing.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's going to save a ton of work on the back end, a lot of guesswork and a lot of frustration, because at the end of the day, what matters the most? Results. And if you're not getting results fast, that athlete is going to go someplace else to find someone who can get the results that they want faster. So I want the coaches that I'm working with to just get fast results and not get stuck in, oh, well, this is I only want to stay in the performance side of things. Yeah, but you have to understand neurology, and you have to understand a little bit of, when you're sticking a lacrosse ball in something or a band on something, and know if you're sticking it in the right spot to unlock movement, performance, and potential so that you can go do the performance stuff. When I left physio school, I almost failed physio school because of neuro. I was failing neuro. And I was like, oh my God, I'm getting a 58. I'm going to fail. Anyway, I passed the exam. I just studied my ass off, got a 95 in neurophys. And I'm like, I left physio school. I'm like, I'm never touching neuro again. And the longer I've been doing I'm just going to be orthopedic guy. I'm going to be a movement guy. I'm going to be a trainer guy. And the longer I've been doing this, and the more I've been learning about the body and all the different systems, I'm like, shit, everything is neuro. Because once I learned neuro, all the orthopedic stuff got way better, way easier, and the results are way faster.
Oh yeah. No, it makes so much sense, and thank you so much for sharing all those like very very valuable, and also for like I gotta say from my background, like I'm getting into it now, and it makes us such a big difference with all
Yeah.
these tools what you have been teaching, what I have been through with your courses, and implementing them with just my regular people
Yep.
or
Yep.
athletes. And but one thing, what I'm really curious is also about breathing work. You mentioned it a little bit, and like you said that if you spend like because I heard in somewhere like, and I have been implementing it, like it for like your breathing, that it helps drastically. So for example, like you mentioned that if you breathe in, then that's the kind of time. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like that, then
Mhm.
you are basically increasing your heart rate,
Yep.
and you
Yep.
are kind of, if you are in a situation that you need a coffee or you need to
Yep.
waking yourself up, then you focus
Yep.
more on inhaling longer and exhaling a little bit shorter.
Yep.
And then on the opposite, if you feel like that you are too nervous or too full of adrenaline, you need to calm down, then you focus more on breathing out slowly.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So breathing, it touches upon primarily two primary pillars that we talk about in the AMT system, which is neurology and chemistry.
Mhm.
So when we're over breathing, somebody comes in like this, you can see their shoulders moving up and down. Well, we take
Mhm.
about 24,000 breaths a day. And from a neurological perspective, one, it's shifting us into that sympathetic state because we're breathing heavy, the nervous system's like, well, is there a tiger around the corner that we have to prepare to run for? So it keeps the blood pressure, heart rate, and everything on a high alert, just in case.
Mhm.
But we can't live there. When we're in that state, there's no recovery, there's no detoxification, there's no down regulation. We can't live there, and that's that chronic state of stress. So just by
Mhm.
breathing like that, it's going to release cortisol all day long. Well, now
Mhm.
that's going to reduce insulin sensitivity. Now we're more pre-diabetic. We're not digesting food effect. Like there's so many things that it shifts us from a neurological perspective in the wrong direction. But the other thing it's doing is when I'm breathing in too much oxygen for a long period of time, hemoglobin in our blood will not release the oxygen in there. We actually go more hypoxic. So
Mhm.
hyperventilation actually reduces blood flow to the brain by 50%.
Mhm.
Now imagine that. So then you get fatigued and tired, and everyone's like, they don't know why. I need a coffee now. Well, if we did something simple like a little bit of a breath hold, right? And we
Mhm.
built up a little bit of carbon dioxide. Well, carbon dioxide is the molecule to help you signal breathing again. But what that does in the bloodstream, once the receptors in the bloodstream is like, oh, CO2 is a little bit high, we better release this oxygen from hemoglobin into the tissues. So it's interesting in research where, when people are unconsciously hyperventilating, they show a reduction in blood flow to the brain about 50%. But when they do some intentional hyperventilation and then you do some breath holds, they get a 300% increase in
Wow.
oxygen to the brain.
Wow.
That seems paradoxical. You're like, well, you're holding your breath. Yeah, but
Mhm.
carbon dioxide was the molecule that signaled release of oxygen to the tissues,
Mhm.
right? So
Wow.
there's two components there. And the great thing with breath is it's the bridge between the nervous system between sympathetic and parasympathetic state. When we're sad, our breathing changes. When we're happy, our breathing changes. When we're angry, our breathing changes. Now, if
Mhm.
we're aware that our breath is changed with our emotions, we can change our breath to affect our emotions and how we feel. So
Mhm.
by simply checking in, I'm angry and frustrated. Okay, I'm just gonna lengthen that exhale, breathe through the nose, breathe into the belly. And what does that automatically do? Shifts you.
Mhm.
So we
Mhm.
have conscious control of it. It's unconscious and subconscious. Or
Mhm.
sorry, it's unconscious and conscious, as long as you're paying attention to it and you're self-aware of what state you're in.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's it's all about becoming awareness. Like it's like not only okay breathing, but whatever you are doing, like first you become aware, where is the
Mm.
what is actually happening, and
Yep.
what I in order to change it, what are there some quick tools or quick ways of
Yep.
addressing?
Yep.
So what is then for athletes who like your to go like a breathing drills if
Yep.
someone, like for example after a hard workout or a game
Yep.
or match, you need to start recovery quickly,
Yep.
and
Yep.
what are your to go exercises?
Sit 5 minutes, quiet nasal breathing. That's it. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. And it's just a focus on where are you breathing and how are you breathing. So the where is, one hand on your chest, one hand on your, and athletes can do this sitting, laying down. I like laying down because then it removes the tension off the shoulders, and then even adding on, put your legs up on the wall to help with blood return and fluid return, but also decompress the spine. It's a nice exercise for that. And they just sit there and lay there for 5 minutes, breathing into their belly, 2 to 3 second inhale, 6 to 8 second exhale, and that's it. Because just by simply doing that and lengthening their exhale, they're going to shift their nervous system to parasympathetic within 5 minutes. Well, if they left the gym, right after the workout and they didn't do any down regulation, their body's still their body's still in a catabolic state, still breaking down.
Yeah.
They're still stressed, the stress hormones. So now that's gone on for another 2-3 hours after the gym. Well, that's 2-3 hours that you could have been recovering and digesting food, right? Because digestion slows or stops when the body's in a stressed out state. So now that post-exercise recovery meal that you just consumed, it's rotting in your stomach and it's not being assimilated and digested to help start repair.
Yeah.
And on the opposite end, we can use breath work to upregulate the nervous system before a heavy lift, right? So you can start, you go, you can do some intentional hyperventilations, increase the oxygen, and then all of a sudden you can push more for longer because you've preloaded the system with oxygen.
Yeah.
You're going to get less lactic burn because you have more oxygen available. You've kind of, stored it up. And then when you got to that lactic acid threshold that you would normally hit, you could push longer because there's more oxygen in the system. And then you quickly, in between sets, just downregulate.
Yeah. No, it makes so much sense, and it sounds like and all athletes or coaches, I highly recommend to try these strategies.
Yeah.
Like I can tell from experience, like we did, when we, for example, last year in the World Championships, when schedule is very tight, you have a back-to-back games, you have often less than 20 hours or 24 hours before next game starts. And of course, in those moments, you want to take all advantage out from starting that recovery right away. So of course, you know that you gotta get some fuel back to your body or some eating something. Then you do that, your 5 minute breathing work. So you start recovery right away and not give that another like 2, 3, 4 hours. Because there is only so many hours time before you have to perform in your best way. And this is an example what you said about squatting or doing exercising, just a couple things to what you can implement basically before every set. And for sure, I know that some athletes, you will forget it most of the times, but once you remember, it's never, it's not end of the world if you forget it once, but just like we talked earlier, it's all about implementing these strategies into own regime and then seeing what happens.
Yep.
So what is, I want to talk a little bit about injury prevention and off-season work. So what is your general framework for reducing injury risk in explosive sports like ice hockey?
So there's prerequisites to different types of movement skills. So if we're talking about power, we need to make sure, one, the range of motion is available. So if hockey players are, they're skating and they got that nice big long stride, if they've got hips or glutes that don't work very well, they don't have a trunk that controls rotation very well, they don't have good spinal erectors or good positioning or posture while they skate, well, power's impaired. So in the off season, again, we're going to assess every single athlete, what imbalances occurred for you, what injuries happened over the season that may be impairing movement or restricting certain things. I want to know what parts and pieces aren't moving, because if certain parts or pieces aren't moving, well, the body's going to ignore those and it's going to transfer forces and energy to other parts of the body, which could potentially accumulate, causing injury, right? Because if we look at injury as a physics problem, because of poor force distribution. Well, we can just simply make sure, does the athlete at least have sufficient range of motion to some degree of symmetry through their body? And if they do, great. Now let's create control and strength through those full ranges of motion. Well, if they have strength and control and they can isometrically hold and they can move quickly in and out of those positions, now we can load them, right? Now let's add some load. And if they can load them, now let's move that load a little faster. So one of the things that, to simplify this, is, posture or position sets up the pattern creates the power, right? If it's practiced enough. If you've got a perfect pattern, and we're going to say perfect, and there's always going to be variability, but we don't move in the exact same way. But if the nervous system and the brain is very, very proficient, it can fire at a higher rate. That myelin, those nerves they have bigger coatings, so that they have more insulation. They can fire faster. So again, we're coming back to the nervous system and neurological drive, because the person can hit the position, they can get the pattern, they get the posture is really good and it's consistent. Well, it's just reinforced. So now neurologically, they can be more efficient with that. They can fire at higher rates. And also, if we removed a lot of the restrictions in their body because of these imbalances, scars, or what have you, now the nervous system takes the brakes off too. It feels safe in the system. Because again, if the nervous system doesn't feel safe with a certain movement or a certain position, it will never take the brakes off to allow you to move quickly from that position. So it comes back to fundamentals, it always comes back to movement quality, movement control, and then speed, power, skill.
So how you then balance that strength and kind of that movement quality in your off-season programming?
I just do like a 2-3 week block where they give the guys a couple weeks off, right? Okay, just go enjoy, and then the first couple weeks, it's just, let's get on the ground. We've assessed stuff, of course, but let's just get on the ground. Let's start moving around. We'll rock, we'll roll, we'll transition, we crawl, just to see how well they do down there. How well do they transition from the ground up and back down? I want to know, what is their relationship with gravity? Because if they're holding their breath in a shin box to stand up without their hands, I was like, "Ooh, we got a problem there," because it should be zero effort. But if they're showing a lot of struggle and effort with basic movements on the ground, there's probably a lot of resistance happening, or a lot of inefficiency when we get into standing and standing on knives on a slippery surface, right? So, and make it fun. Nobody likes to do corrective exercise. That's fine. We'll create little obstacle courses. We get over the hurdles. We crawl under the hurdles. We do front rolls. We do back rolls. We go to the beach. We'll look at different, forms of movement. For hockey players, if you've got sand, if you've got a beach to train on, that's awesome. Yeah. Because I find that there's a lot of carryover, especially when we do sprints and cone work, that is more translatable to hockey. I know some coaches, it's like, well, you don't get the ground reaction forces, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but for hockey players, there's no ground reaction forces. Yeah. Like, it's very different. Yeah. But yeah, like a track football player, yeah, it is different. It's nice. It trains the feet differently. But, from a contact foot position, yeah, you're not getting the ground reaction forces for propulsion. But for hockey players, you get them in a sandy area and do some work in there. That's super fun. Oh. So, I always make it fun. We do lots of card drills. One drill that you can do with them, especially we have a hockey goalie right now, get a deck of playing cards and throw them at them and get them to try and catch it out of the air. Because now that's convergence. Now it's reaction. Now, and if they're not catching it, at least make hand contact, right? Yeah. But they love it. It's so fun. Get a little tennis ball, put some letters on it, throw it at them, have them call out a letter before they catch it. Get them juggling on a balance beam, right? Have them hold water in their mouth, get on a balance beam and juggle. Have them hold their breath and stand on one leg and juggle, right? Like, there's a lot of things. Once you get those introduced, and they're having fun, they will they trust you. They'll be like, and they're feeling good, and their nervous systems are all firing up, and they're organized. And now, okay, let's go lift some heavy weights. Because I know a lot of athletes, they're like, the weight training's boring. But if I pepper in these fun little things, they forget how boring the heavy lifting is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But what I feel often is that athletes, like hockey players, they are like kind of, it's still like I used to be the same, like
Yeah.
that. And this is kind of like what have changed also my opinion or my way of thinking as a coach. Like it was that mentality is always that if training doesn't feel hard, it's not going to be effective. So if you go, you need to do like something like what is like mentally really devastating
Mhm.
in order that to be effective.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, can you rephrase that question
Yeah,
for me?
no, just the question is like that because what I have seen is just
Yeah.
the athletes often they have that mindset of like not working smarter, just instead of
Oh,
working
yes.
harder.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. There's some athletes, they just want to grind. They're like,
Hmm.
just crush me, just kill me. They
Yeah.
feel like harder is better.
Hmm.
And the problem with that is you can dig a hole that they can't get out of. I'll give you
Hmm.
an example. So I had a Muay Thai kickboxer, and his
Hmm.
mentality is, I need to be killed every single workout. I said,
Hmm.
no, because you're causing, with a workout, we're actually causing destruction in the body to a degree, right? To cause a
Hmm.
stress adaptation so that the body becomes stronger. But I'm like, if you are still crushing your body every single workout, you're not giving your body enough time to recover, and you can start to get into overtraining, overreaching situations.
Hmm.
So I scale it. I ask them, they come in, hey, what's your energy today? 1 to 10. Oh, it's like an
Hmm.
8. Great. How much sleep did you get last night? Oh, I got like 8 hours. Great. What's your stress like? Oh, it's like a 2. Great. Stress is low, energy's high. What's your mood like? 0 to 10, 10 being the highest. Oh, feel great today. It's like a 10. And then I'll measure like grip strength and blood pressure, heart rate.
Hmm.
And if a nervous system is good and their psychology is good, hey, we're going to go crush a workout today.
Oh yeah.
If their sleep was shit, their stress is high, their durability is low. That's another thing I ask. I have a what's called a DAR Q that they fill out every single time. If their energy is low, if their sleep, stress, energy, mood is low, and then their blood pressure is high and their heart rate's high and their hand grip is weak, I was like,
Hmm.
it's a red day. We're going to do some recovery stuff.
Hmm.
But it's making them realize that they're not firing on all cylinders today. So we're not going to do the heavy lift. We're not going to do the plyometrics. We're not going to do the high intensity stuff. We'll shift that to tomorrow. It's okay,
Hmm.
because your body, your nervous system, and your psychology are saying, telling me something different. And if I try and force this program on them today to continue to crush them, now we're in a deeper hole that we have to dig out of. Now they need 2 days off
Hmm.
potentially. Or what if they get hurt?
Yeah.
Because what's the strength coach's job?
Yeah.
Prevent injury.
Oh
If there's a lot of injuries on a team, who's the first one getting fired?
yeah. Yeah. You
Strength
can
coach. The
always.
strength coach's job is to build resiliency with the weight room, with the strategies, so that the athletes stay on the ice and they perform. But if the
Mhm.
athletes are getting hurt on the ice and they're constantly in rehab and then they have to re-strengthen, well, now I'm questioning what's going on with the programming, because the programming is the thing, that's the insurance policy that's supposed to make sure that the athletes don't get hurt. So
Mhm.
coming back to your question of, more is better, I got to show the athletes where they are.
Mhm.
I got to show them, like, today's not a more day,
Mhm.
today's a less day. We're still going to get work done, but we're just
Mhm.
not going to hit the intensity that you want to.
Mhm.
And another psychological component of it, we can try and tell ourselves or convince ourselves, this pain that I'm in is so good for me and I'm crushing it and da. Well, there's going to come a time where you're just like, I don't want to do that today,
Mhm.
right? Your nervous system will tell you, I don't want to do this. And if you're leaving in pain all the time, subconsciously, your brain will find reasons not to do that. But
Oh
if you
yeah.
leave feeling good, better than when you started, your brain's like, I want to do that again tomorrow. I feel amazing.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's highlighting we're looking for the good feeling, not
Yeah.
the crushed bad feeling. And if we get to crushed and bad, we either did too much today or we've done too much over the week. So tomorrow's going to be a lighter day. But the point of it is we're supposed to get a little bit better every day. And if that means doing a lighter day so that the next day is even better, fine. But again, I build that self-awareness in my athletes. I have them fill out this form, which I'm happy to give to you so you can go through it. And this is another way that they can measure their output and how they're feeling. And then you can quickly look at it. You're like, oh, good. Like sleep is good. Da 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 da. Neurology, physiology is good. All right, let's crush it today. Or, you know what? Your mood is not good. Your nervous system's saying you're okay. That might be more of a let's ease into this kind of thing. We might need a little bit more of an activation. And if all the numbers are screwed on the psychological side and the numbers on the neurological physiology side are not good, it's going to be it's red. So we're on a lighter day.
Yeah, no, makes some sense. And I would love to get that kind of those tools and always to see. Like I'm so curious to learn and implement all these different kind of strategies, and those are life changing. So it went way too fast. I have a feeling like that we just got started, and I would have so many questions still or topics, but was the last question what I was you are deeply passionate about helping others.
Yeah.
How do you keep your own training and everything, taking care of yourself as a high performers leader and a family man?
Prioritize it. I'll get my workout in earlier in the morning if I have to. If I know I have a busier day, or if I can do my workout later in the day, I need to do something in the morning, I schedule it. So if it's in my schedule, it gets done. Right? I have because I prioritize it, I make sure it gets done. Because I got sick again, like I said, all these doctors said the only reason you're still here is because of how healthy you came in, but that's because I prioritize my health. And when my health is in check, then I can show up and be the best version of myself for everybody around me. But if my health isn't good, I don't have the energy, I don't have the focus, I don't have the desire to, you just don't have, your cup is too full because you don't have the resources to share. But when your health is good, you can share yourself to everybody else and share that energy and share that passion. So, it's prioritize what you preach.
Yeah, no, and it applies, I think, for all areas in life, or not
Absolutely.
only fitness or strength coaches. It's basically for everyone who, like, because I have a feeling like now that it's all about its hype. Is like more is better, that you gotta work, that's the best person ever who is making like 20-hour or 16-hour days in an office. When truth is that if you would prioritize your own health, you would get the same amount of done, be better leader, better worker, and show up for your family in a different energy when you take care of yourself.
100%.
So where the last wrap-up questions, and what is the one thing if a listener could do today to improve their movement, recovery, or performance, even without fancy equipment?
The easiest entry point, I think, for a lot of people is, if they're intimidated or they're not sure, doing squats, lunges, even with calisthenics and body weight, get on the floor, sit, work on different postures. Sitting on the floor improves posture and opens up the hips. You stretch things, nerves get mobilized. Think about how we learn to move as babies. They crawl, they rock, they roll, they get up, and while you're down there, you can do some glute bridges, you can do some push-ups, you can do, some supports, you can do some climbers. So, even in the standing positions, people's like, wow, when I lunge, my knees hurt. Okay, cool. Go to the floor. Like, work on some movements down there, because that's where we first learned how to move. That's where the core starts to dial in. That's where the posture dials in. That's how the shoulders start to become stable. That's how the knees and the hips start to become strong in a squat position, is through crawling patterns. So there's lots of variety down there, and just spend 5 minutes doing it. Set a timer, just explore the floor. That's it. And then as you start to feel good, you're going to have this inkling of, you know what, I want to do some squats. Oh, I'm going to squat from this position. I'm going to do some step ups. Because again, if people are feeling good and the nervous system is like, oh, I really like that, I want to do more of it, it will find reasons to do more of it. But if it hurts, if it doesn't feel good, your subconscious will find reasons not to do it. So what I tell people, regardless, all my athletes, they do some kind of floor work. They're always crawling, they're always on a balance beam, they're always doing their hip transitions because it's very restorative and it's a nice transition to build a relationship with the ground again in case we end up there, but also it helps reorganize our structures and our nervous system.
Awesome. Then where can people learn more about SEMscan or the MT certification?
Yep. So amtcertified.ca is the website. So the courses will be up on there. I have got my YouTube channel. It's got longer format videos on there. I just did a video on top 5 exercises for athletes over 40.
Wow.
And so yeah, it's one that I've continued to use, but it's actually helping me develop the tension in my body to get back to my gymnastics and whatnot. But so that's Tommy Swales. Instagram is swales.tom. Facebook, LinkedIn is Tom Swales, and I think TikTok is the AMT guy.
All right. Amazing. I will put those links to show notes so you can check everything from there. And thank you so much for being in my show, Tom.
Oh, happy to be here. Thanks, Darrell.
Hold up, friend. Do you love Fit Me to a Fitness podcast? If so, the best way to say thank you is to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review on iTunes. I know every podcaster wants you to leave a review, but it's because those reviews help the podcast to reach more people. I truly want to know what you think and if this particular episode resonated with you. Would you also please share it? Either send a link to someone who you think will find it valuable or take a screenshot and post it into your social media and tell your friends and family why they should listen it. Make sure you tag me so I can hear your feedback and give you a little love. And if you aren't already following me on Instagram or TikTok, that's the perfect time to hit that follow button. Thank you for being here and listening to Fit Me to a Fitness podcast.